Hello and welcome everybody, Crosstown Gamer here, and today we are going to actually start gameplay of our playthrough of Andean Abyss, Insurgency and Counter-Insurgency in Colombia, which is Volume 1 of GMT's Coin series designed by Volko Runke. And we are going to be playing as the government faction, as we've decided in the last video, or I decided, and we're playing against the other factions that will be functioning via the bot flowcharts. So we're going to do this in a one-player fashion. And I have everything set up here. One note, at the end of the last video I had mentioned that there are these control markers that can be used to display either government or FARC control. Rather than just like putting them and littering the board with more markers, I found that actually in the first edition of the rules, which we have the second edition here, in the first edition, they said to only really use them during propaganda rounds, because that's when they have effects anyway. Now, control does affect certain bot decisions and other things during the course of the game, in the campaign. So they do say in the second edition rules you can use them as needed. But rather than being super fiddly about it and flipping over markers right and left all the way throughout, I'm hoping we're gonna see how it goes not using them. And in areas where it's contested or it's close, then I maybe will bring a marker out as needed. But otherwise, we're going to just... It should be pretty easy to figure out if we have control or if FARC has control of a region. So I don't think we're actually going to leverage those control markers too much. Now, if you guys give me the feedback that you would like them on the board, I'm more than happy to put them out. Just leave a comment. Otherwise, let's get started. I'm excited to get started. I feel much more in my wheelhouse playing this game than I did playing Falling Sky, because I think the battle rules and the bots were a little more involved and complicated in that. Not to say that I'm going to shy away from the other coin games that are more complicated than Falling Sky, because I fully recognize that it's not one of the more complex ones. But as my second one that I'm playing with the bots ever. Not my second ever coin game, but as the second one I was always playing with the bots. It was just, had a bit of a learning curve. So I feel much more at home with these bots, I think. So let's see how it goes. We're going to flip over the first card. High Mountain Battalions. Looks like a government capability, and we're up first, which is going to be good. And then the second card that comes up is DEA Agents. So let's take a look at what we're going to do here. So High Mountain Battalions, I believe the unshaded version of this is going to benefit us, and the shaded typically is anti-government. So let's see how it goes. Assault treats mountains as city. And government capabilities are going to last until... I believe capabilities last until the end of the game. I can double check. In Cuba Libre, there were capabilities which lasted until the end of the game, and then momentum, which only lasts until the end of the particular propaganda, the campaign, the round. So I'll double check, but either way, as a first card out of the gate, it seems pretty strong. But what does it mean when it says assault in mountains is... I'm sorry, I gotta read it again. Treated as a city. So if you look at the menu selection for the actions that we can do, Assault mentions that in mountain squares, you're only removing one enemy piece for every 2 troops that you have. In cities, however, city or a lock, it's remove 1 piece for every cube there. Cube encompasses both police and troops, whereas this is specifically related to troops. So, in a normal situation, let's pretend that this city was actually a mountain space. Well, this is a mountain space, but this has both. It's a better example. Currently, there's 3 troops here, so 1 for every 2 troops means that we would only be able to eliminate 1 enemy piece. Whereas, if we treat this as a city, which it is, then 1 for every cube means you'd get to eliminate 5 pieces. So that's a much better ratio. I think we are going to take that as our first event. So I'm just going to take the card and put it somewhere where I'm going to be reminded of it. I'll put it up here next to our track, but I'm not sure if that's actually going to make me remember. I think there's a box here, so I can sift through these markers and find the specific one. Mountain battalions. Do an unshaded, so I'll put that there. Just as a reminder. Okay, that was our first turn here. We did an event. The next eligible faction is going to be the AUC. So let's take a look at their bot flowchart. For this, typically the bots want to play the event. I think more often than not, they're going to, if they're first eligible, likely going to play the event. But in order to actually play the event, it has to be effective, first of all. They need to be first eligible, and their symbol needs to be first on the card. Or they can be second eligible, and they will, and there's no like 2 here, then they're going to play the event as well. I can show you that when one comes up. I can't show it to you right now because I don't have any of the cards with that on there. But regardless, they don't have the option of playing. Sorry, I had to sneeze there, so I paused it. They don't have the option of playing the event anyway because they're the second eligible faction, so they get to do an operation and special activity. And remember, they are the bots, so even if it was a limited operation, they would get to do a full operation and special activity as well. So we're going to see what it is that they do. We start in the upper left here. AUC has 6+ guerrillas available or can place base. They definitely have more than 6 guerrillas available. They have, I don't know, what does that look like, 12? So they have 12 there, so this is going to be a yes. And can they place a base? Let's see what the requirements are for that. Let's just double check what their rally does, because that's eventually, the yes leads to a rally situation here. So let's see what their rally does. They place 1 guerrilla, or they replace 2 of them with a base. So anywhere on the map where they have 2 guerrillas in a single location, a single department, they are going to be able to place a base. Right now, they only have locations where there's just a single AUC guerrilla there. So they're not going to be able to place a base, but we do answer yes because they do have 6+ available. So they can place in locations where they have bases already, up to the number of population plus bases in that square. So, for example, if they were to rally here, they have 1 base here and it's 2 populations, so they would get to place 3 guerrillas in that location. Whereas over here, they don't have a base, so they just get to place the 1. And there is a restriction. They can only do this in departments or cities without opposition. So they cannot rally here because this is active opposition. They can rally here because it's got support. Similarly, they can rally here because it's neutral. Okay, we got that out of the way, and this will go faster as I don't need to explain those little things anymore, but I feel like as we go through this the first time, I should be very clear on how this works. So this is a yes because they have 6+ available guerrillas. So they're going to rally in up to 3 non-opposition departments or cities. So already we get a nice cue in the flow chart that says we can do this in non-opposition departments and cities. So we can't do this on lines of communication, and we can't do this in opposition. And there's a little restriction here that they only want to do this in three spots, up to 3 spots. First, in any places where there are underground AUC, or sorry, where there are AUC bases, cubes, and all. Okay, where the AUC has a base, there's a cube, at least 1 cube there, and all the AUC guerrillas are active. They want to flip them all to underground. That's another part of the rally mechanic, is that you can choose to flip all of your active above ground guerrillas. You can flip them underground. But they only want to do that in places where the government has a cube, where we have a cube there, and they have a base. So that way the government can't assault and like take out that piece. Because when we assault, we can only take out active pieces. So first we have to sweep to activate them, and then we can assault and do that. So that's just a little bit of why the bot is suggesting to behave that way. It protects their bases from attack. We're going to place bases where there's at least 3 AUC guerrillas, and again, they're only in single locations on the map right now, so that's not true. And then lastly, we're going to place guerrillas first at FARC bases, then at AUC bases, and then elsewhere, keeping in mind this 3 restriction. And when we get to there, I'll explain this part too. So there's a lot of FARC bases on the map already. 1, 2, 3. I mean, there's like 6 of them. But most of these locations have opposition, which is one of the requirements. We're not allowed to place, we're not allowed to rally in places that have opposition. I see on the map there is, there is one base down here though that does not have opposition. It's neutral. So let's double check and make sure we're doing this correctly. But so if the AUC have a base, we instead place guerrillas up to the population plus bases, or move any guerrillas there underground. Yeah, okay. So since the AUC doesn't have a base there, we are only going to place the one. Let's use an action pawn to denote our location, our 3 locations. They do want to place one there, and no other FARC bases. So the flowchart tells us they want to place at AUC bases. There is one of those, so the next place that we're going to rally is here. And then the last, of course I closed it. The last priority here is just elsewhere. So the eligible locations are anywhere that doesn't have opposition. And the first priority within this is if there are AUC bases available, then at exactly 1 or 2 AUC guerrillas. Yeah, so what this means is elsewhere on the map where there's already an existing 1 or 2 guerrillas, so long as there's an available base. There is an available base, so what they're doing here is attempting to put more pieces on places where they are already 1 or 2, so that in future turns they can rally and place a base there, because they're only going to place bases if they have 3 guerrillas available in a particular department. So that narrows it down again, because this has opposition, this has opposition, this has opposition. The only other, there's 2 locations, there's this one and there's this one that have AUC guerrillas already on the map. So again, it's at where there's already 1 or 2 AUC guerrillas. And so, and that place has already been selected as a point for a rally. So either here or here. And if the flowchart does not give explicit, or like we've reached the end of the priority chain and we still have a decision to make, then we decide randomly. So there's a lovely, where is it? It's on the back of the flowcharts, a chart that allows you to roll 2 dice, the red and the yellows, and based on the outcome, oh, and the greens, I guess, too. You roll all these dice. Interesting. I'm going to need to exactly figure out how this one works, as I'm having a difficult time reading this table. But when it's only between 2 outcomes of equal priority, we can just roll 1, rather than go through this big rigmarole of rolling a bunch of dice, cross-referencing this chart. Oh, I see how it works. Never mind, I totally get it. Yeah, you roll all 3 dice. Say we got a yellow 4, a red 1, and a green 5. So the yellow 4 would correspond to this row. A red 1 would correspond to this column, so we would know we're in this group of 3 here. And then green, I think I said 5, so it's a 5 or a 6, so it's going to be this last part, it'd be Santander. But rather than roll all 3 dice, if there were a bunch of options, I would use this table and kind of go through and say, like, that's not an eligible spot. We would go down to the next one and the next one and the next one. Rather than do that, we're just going to do, we're going to say, Okay, here is a 1, 2, or a 3 on the dice roll, and this is a 4, 5, or a 6. Cuts down a little bit going forward, and it's a judgment call which one you want to do. Okay, 4. So we said 1, 2, 3, and then a 4, 5, 6. So we'll place a gorilla here. So we're rallying here, that's one spot. We're rallying here, and again, there's 1 base and 2 population, so we're placing 3 total. Technically, the order kind of matters, so I mean, we would actually want to go in reverse order of what we did. But because it's the start of the game, the resources are full, and there's more than enough gorillas, so I'm not worried about it too much. And then down here, just the 1 gorilla as well. And each one, I will show you, costs 1 resource per space selected. So since we did it in 3 spots, it'll cost 3 resources. They start at 10, move down to 7. Excellent. And then we're not done yet. They can do their special activity. They can extort wherever they're able to. And they give a little hint here. They can do this wherever the AUC outnumbers all others and has an underground gorilla. If you look at the extort special ability, any space where there's an underground gorilla and the AUC outnumbers the enemy. That happens... So not here, not here, not here, not here, not here. It looks like these 2 locations. I don't think I'm missing one. But if I am, feel free to yell at me for it. And what's the procedure? It says there's no limit here for like number of spots. So you can do this in as many as possible. And its purpose is to gain resources. So for each selected space, add 1 resource and activate 1 underground gorilla. So we're doing it in these 2 spots. So we'll activate 1 underground gorilla in each. And for each of those activations, we're going to be adding in 1 resource. So it's as though their rally only cost 1. Great. So that was the first turn. And yeah, I'm already feeling like this has the potential, so long as I'm not explaining every card in quite that much detail. This has the potential to go a lot faster than Falling Sky did. So even though the map is like twice as big as Cuba Libre, it feels a lot more like Cuba Libre did. So that's good. Great. So that was this card, the High Mountain Battalions. And again, you are supposed to leave it there, but I like to keep the full card text over there to remind me. So this card comes over. This is the one we're going to be playing. And we'll flip this over. And it's former military. So the cartel is the first up. And if we look at their flowchart, they're going to play the event if it has an effect, any effect at all, and they are first eligible, and it's in the first location there. That's all those are true. This is the first spot of the 4, and they're eligible, first eligible. So they are going to try to play the event, shaded version, and they will do the event so long as this has some effect. So in 3 spaces with cartel pieces, shift 1 level toward active opposition. Okay, let's look at the map here. All the cartel pieces are on this side. But I'm trying to look. It looks like all of them have active opposition already. They can't be shifted further. So I'm not sure this has an effect. Oh, wait. There is... Cali is neutral. So this one can shift. It says in 3 spaces, and up to 3 spaces, but it doesn't mean that you have to be able to do it in 3 spaces. So long as it has some effect, which it does, they're going to do the event. So even though it's not a super useful event for them, they would have liked that card to have appeared later when they have pieces in other areas of the map. They will still do it here, and they will shift it toward active opposition. So neutral goes to passive. And that does not affect our support, but it does affect the opposition plus bases. So the multiplier is ×1 and the population is a 3 there. So that gave the FARC 1, 2, 3 opposition, which is really bad because they're getting close to their threshold already. They only need 3 more opposition. So what we want to do is try to make sure that the cities have as much support as possible, because they are the big ticket items as far as support or population go. Okay, next up would be us, but we're ineligible. So then it's the FARC, and we want to make sure to adjust our pieces here. So they can do a full turn, they cannot do the event. Oh my gosh, I just totally derailed this. I think it was at 23. So, again, they would like to do the event if those conditions were met, but since it's not, do they have 9+ guerrillas available or can place a base? Yeah, they've got an ocean of pieces here. So, they will rally. And again, to place a base, rally usually means different things for different groups. For example, the AUC could not rally in locations with opposition, and the FARC cannot rally in places with support. But I think the overall procedure is largely the same. Population plus bases, yep. Okay, so guerrillas to underground, where there's a cube and a base, and all of them are active. It's the beginning of the game, so this isn't something we have to worry about. Place bases where there are at least 3 FARC guerrillas. It looks like on the map, the most they have is 2. And the reason they wouldn't want to do... Oh, well, they're at stacking limit in these locations anyway, but supposing, they had 2 here, they wouldn't want to do it there necessarily, because it would remove 2 of their guerrillas at once and then to place a base, and their bases would be undefended. You cannot remove bases while there are still guerrillas or other pieces in that same department. So, like right now, this base is protected because even if a piece gets removed, they can just remove the guerrilla and the base stays there. So, they only want to do it when they have at least 3 guerrillas in a spot for that extra bit of protection. They're going to place guerrillas at FARC bases and then in one other space. So regardless of if... Oh, yeah, see, there's no like max 3 here. So they're going to do it in as many FARC bases as they possibly can, and then in one other space where there's exactly 1 or 2 other FARC guerrillas. So they have 6 bases. So... Are any of those in spaces with support? I don't think so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, they're all neutral or opposition. So all those are viable locations. So let's just start going down the chain here. And each one will cost 1 resource. Man, pricey. But they want to get all their pieces on the map. So again, it's population plus bases. So here they have 1 base, 1 population. So that's 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. Then here, 1 plus 1 is 2. And in case I didn't say this before, whenever you're placing pieces onto the map, they always go underground. Here, 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. And 1 plus 1 is 2. And just like that, they just have so many pieces on the board. Holy smokes. They only have 5 available. And then they also want to do this, so they did it all the FARC bases, and at one other space where there's exactly 1 or 2. So I'm trying to look on the map here. So we've already selected the spots with bases. The spots where they have a guerrilla and no base are here, here, and there. So it looks like, yeah, that's that. Again, this is an easily divisible by, or like you can divide 3 spots into 6 for a 6-sided die. So we're not going to use the location finder thing. But I hope to use it to at least show you what it's about. But it looks like they're going to select one of these spots. There's no other priorities listed, so this will be... Oh, they can't do it here because this has support. Whoopsies. So there's only 2 viable locations, so it's a 1, 2, or 3, 4, 5, and 6. 4. So it looks like in Narino Kauka, they will place 1 gorilla. So they've got 6 spots with bases, plus the extra spot makes 7. If each one costs 1, then that costs them 7 resources, bringing them all the way down to 3. So they're probably going to be playing a lot of events because those are typically free. And that is their operation. But now let's check on their special activity. They also would like to extort. The top part of these, actually, you know, the AUC and the FARC are going to play mostly the same. There are some differences in their flowcharts for sure, but it looks like they have a similar strategy going in. Whereas the cartel is like a different looking beast. So they're going to extort where the FARC outnumbers all others and has an underground guerrilla. First in locations where there's at least 2, and then on 1 other line of communication at the lowest econ. And if none, no special activity. So they're only going to do it in spots with 2, and where they outnumber all the other pieces. Let's get some markers going. Here, they have at least 2, and they outnumber everybody. Here they have at least 2 and outnumber everybody. Here, here, not there. Yes. Yes. I ran out of markers. Yes. And then at 1 other line of communication, but none of them have gorillas on them right now. I think that's all the spots where they outnumber all the pieces and have at least 2 underground gorillas. Yep. And again, not here because they don't outnumber everybody. So let's go ahead and do it. So it's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. Oh my gosh, they just got all their resources back. Just like that. Cool. Take the pawns, and we'll adjust the resources so they go from 3 all the way back up to 7. And all they had to do for it was activate some gorillas there, which, who knows, it might come back to bite them. None of those spots have our cubes on them, though, so that's kind of crappy, too. For us. Not for them, obviously. So back up to 10, just like that. And that was DEA agents. So now let's adjust the eligibility. So again, the ineligible ones go back to eligible, and the ones that just played go to ineligible. And then we will play the next card. The AUC is up. Oh, and this has the play ops kind of a thing if they're second eligible, which I'll explain in the next video because we're getting close to the end of time here. But then after that is Criminal Air Force. And I know in Falling Sky, I think there were some situations in Cuba Libre too where if, for example, the AUC was actually like 3rd or 4th eligible and they still got to go, they still got a turn, and they could see that on the next card they're first eligible and then want to do the event, they would pass to be able to do the event next time. I don't know. I can't think of a scenario off the top of my head where the flowcharts are going to facilitate something like that, but it's possible. I thought that was always interesting too. It's like, oh, they can plan ahead. It's not just us. What have we created? Monsters. Okay, so this is the board state at the onset of the game, and a lot of these other locations are still empty, but they don't even have population values at all, so they're probably not worth very much. And as far as endgame goals and conditions, they do offer a place to put bases though, so I think the insurgent factions are going to want to go into there eventually. Otherwise, we've got a pretty good lockdown on all the cities, whereas the FARC seems to have taken control of the countryside. I'm going to stop the video here. However, just like to say one last time that if you did notice any rules mistakes, or you have questions or comments, want something to clear up, want me to clear something up for you, then go ahead and leave a comment. I love to hear your feedback. Otherwise, we'll see you next time for Andean Abyss.